Hello guys, my name is Urvisha and today I tell about some facts of the war. So continue, let's go. The fact is shooting the ocean. The fact is shooting the occasion. Lord Wayne asked and said, if strong chariots, good horse, and strong and violent soldiers suddenly meet the enemy and are thrown into confusion and ranks broken, what should be done? And Wu answered and said, in general, the method is fighting is to effected order in daylight by means of flags and banners and pennons and batons, at night by gongs and drums, whistles and flutes. If a signal be made to the left, the troops move to the left. If to the right, they move to the right. Advance is made at the sound of the drum, held at the sound of the gun. One blast of the whistle is for advance, two for the rally. If those who disobey be cut down, the forces are subject to authority. If officers and soldiers carry out orders and superior enemy cannot exist, no position is impregnable in the attack. Lord Wayne asked and said, what is to be done if the enemy be many and we be few? And Wu answered and said, avoid such an enemy on open ground and meet him in the narrow way. For as it is written, if one is to stand against 1,000, there is not better than a pass if 10 are to hold against 100. There is nothing better than a steep place if 1,000 are to strike 10,000. There is nothing better than a difficult place if a small force with beat of gong and drum suddenly arise in a narrow way. Even a host will be upset. Therefore it is written, he who has a multitude seeks the plain, and he who has few seeks the narrow way. And Lord Wu asked and said, the mighty host strong and courageous, which is on the defence with a mountain behind, a precipice between high ground on the right and a river on the left, with deep moats and high walls, and which has artillery, whose retreat is like the removal of a mountain, advance like the hurricane, and whose supplies are in abundance, is an enemy against whom long defence is difficult. In effect, what should be done in such a case? And Wu answered and said, this indeed is a great question whose issue depends not upon the might of chariots and horse, but upon the schemes of a wise man. Let 1,000 chariots and 10,000 horse well equipped and with footmen added to them be divided into 5 armies, and a road told to each army. Then, if there be 5 armies and each army take a different road, the enemy will be puzzled and know not in the quarter to be prepared. If the enemy's defense be strong and united, send announce quickly to him to discover his intention. If he listen to our advice, he will strike camp and withdraw. But if he listen not to our advice but strikes down the messengers and burns his papers, then divide and attack from 5 quarters. If Victorious do not pursue. If defeated, flee, flee to a distance. If feigning, retreat. Proceed slowly, and if the enemy approach, strike swiftly. One army will one army will hold the enemy in front, with another cut his rear. Two more with gags in their mouths will attack his weak point, whether on the right or on the left. If five armies thus make alternate assaults, success is certain. It is the way to strike strength. And Lord when asked and said, if the enemy draw near and encompass us, and we would retreat. But there is no way, and in our multitude there is fear. What should be done? And Wu answered and said, in such a case, if we be many and they be few, divide and fall upon them. If the enemy be many and we be few, use stratagem and act according to opportunity. And if opportunities be unreadily seized, even if the enemy be many, he will be reduced to subjection. Lord Wen asked and said, if in narrow valley with steep place on either side, the enemy be met, and they are many and we are few, what should be done? And Wu answered and said, if they be met among hills, woods, in deep mountains or wide fens, advance quickly, retire swiftly, and hesitate not. If the enemy be suddenly met among high mountains or deep valleys, be the first to strike the drum and fall upon them. Let bow and crossbow advance. Shoot and capture, observe the state of their ranks. And if there be confused, do not hesitate to strike. Lord Wen asked and said, if the enemy be suddenly met in a narrow place with high mountains or either side, and advance and retreat are alike impossible, what should be done in such a case? And Wu answered and said, this is called war in valleys where numbers are of no avail. The ablest officers should be collected and set against the enemy. Men light of foot and well armed should be placed in front. The chariots divide, and the horsemen drawn up, and placed in ambush on four sides, with many luggage between and without showing their weapons. Then the enemy will certainly make his defense firm, and neither advance to retreat, whereupon the standards will be raised in the ranks of banners shown the mountains left, and camp pitched in the plain. The enemy then be fearful and should be challenged by chariots and horse, and allowed no rest. This is the method of fighting in valleys. And Lord Wen asked and said, if the enemy be met in a marsh where the water is out, so that the wheels of the chariot sink in, and the shaft be covered, and the chariots and horsemen overcome by the waters, when there are no boats or oars, and it is impossible either to advance or retreat, what should be done in such a case? And Wu answered and said, this is called water fighting. Chariots and horsemen cannot be used, and they must be put for a time on one side, go up to the top of a high place, and look out to the four quarters. Then the state of the waters will certainly be seen, their extent, and the deep place and shallow fully ascertained. Then by stratagem the enemy may be defeated. If the enemy should cross the waters, he should be engaged when half over. And Lord when asked and said, if there has been long continued rain, so that the horse sink and the chariots cannot move, if the enemy appear from four quarter, and the force and frightened, what is the course in such a case? And Wu answered and said, when wet and overcast, the chariot should halt when fine and dry. They should raise thick height and avoid low places. Drive the strong and chariots, and choose well the road on which to advance or halt. If the enemy suddenly arise, immediately pursue them. Lord Van asked and said, if forefield and pressure be suddenly placed, and our oxen and sheep taken, what should be done? And Wu answered and said, lawless enemies that arise are to be feared. Defend well and do not reply when, at sunset, they seek to draw. They will certainly be overridden and fearful. Striving to return quickly to their homes, connection will be lost. Then, if they be pursued and attacked, they can be thrown. Wu the master said, the way of attacking the enemy and investing his castle is as follows. When the outlying buildings have been taken and the assaulting parties enter the innermost sanctuary, make us make use of the enemy's officials and take charge of their weapons. Let the army on no account fell trees or enter dwellings. Cut the crops, slay the sick domestic animals, or burn the buns, and show the people that there is no cruel desire. Those who wish to surrender should be received and freed from the anxiety. So, this fact is shooting the occasion. So go on next fact. The next fact is encouragement of the troops. So let's go. And Lord Wayne asked and said, if punishment be just and reward impartial, if victory thereby gain. And Wu answered and said, I cannot speak of all the things that concern justice and impartiality, but on these alone dependencies cannot be placed. If the people hear the Lord of command or listen to the order with rejoicing, if when the army be raised and a multitude assemble, they go forth gladly to the fight. If in the tumult of the fight, when blade cross blade, the soldiers gladly die. Upon these three things can be Lord of the people place his trust. And Lord Wayne said, how can this be brought about? And Wu answered and said, seek out merit, advance and reward it, and encourage those without fame. Accordingly, Lord Wayne sits in the gardens of the place in 3 rows, and made a feast unto his chef retainers. In the first row were set those of chief merit, and on the table were placed the best meats and precious utensils. Those of medium merit were set in the middle row, and the utensils on the table were fewer in number. Those without merit were set in the last row, and utensils of no value were put before them. And when the feast was over, and they had all depart, the parents, wives, and children of those with merit were given present outside the gates of the place according to their degree. Further messengers were sent yearly with gifts to condole with the parents of those who had lost a son in the service of the state, and to show that they were had in embarrass. And after this was carried out for 3 years, the people of Chin gathered an army and came as far as the western river. And when the soldiers of we heard this, without waiting for orders, they armed themselves and fell upon them. And they that went forth were 10,000 in number. And Lord when called who and said, the words that you spoke unto me, have they not indeed been carried out? And who answered and said, I have heard that there are men, great and small, soul grand and feeble. As a trial, let 50,000 men without merit be collected and placed under my command against the country of Chin. If we fail, the state will be the laughing stock among the princes, and its power under heaven will be lost. If a dispart robber he hidden in a wide plain, and 1,000 men be pursuing him, their glances will be furtive like the owl, looking backward like the wolf, for they are in fear of harm from a sudden onslaught. One desperate man can put fear in the hearts of 1,000. Now, if this host of 50,000 men become as a desperate thief and are led against Chin, there is not to fear. On hearing these words, Lord Wen agreed, and adding further 500 chariots and 8,000 horse, the host of Chin were overthrown, all being due to the encouragement of the troops. One the day before the battle, who gave orders to forces, saying, the army will attack the enemy's chariots, horse and foot, in accordance with our commands. If the chariots do not capture the enemy's chariots, or the horse those of the enemies, or the foot the enemy's footmen, even if their army be overthrown, no merit will be gained. Therefore, on the day of the battle, the orders were simple, and fear of we shook the heavens.